The world of Redstep was wide and quiet. The skies were not blue like Earth skies. They were a warm copper color, glowing softly in the evenings and bright during the day. The grass that covered the land was tall and reddish-brown, waving like slow-moving waves on a shallow sea. This world felt old, gentle, and waiting. Many people lived in big cities under clear domes far away, but one man lived alone on these open plains, and his name was Elias Ward. Elias had come to Redstep many years ago. He came because he wanted peace. He wanted to hear wind instead of voices. He wanted to hear animals moving instead of machines. He wanted to build a home with his hands and sleep under a sky full of stars that seemed close enough to touch. Most people in the galaxy thought his choice was strange. They liked comfort, technology, and crowds. Elias liked something different. He liked quiet. He built his ranch by himself. He cut beams, placed planks, and shaped stone to make walls. The house was small, but it was strong and warm. He raised fences, dug a well, and set up small solar panels to gather light. His horse-like mount, which he called Clover, was always near him like a loyal friend. Clover had 6 strong legs, a calm nature, and eyes that shone like polished wood. Elias had trained Clover to respond to whistles, and the two understood each other without many words. The days on the ranch passed slowly but peacefully. Elias woke before the sun rose, watched light spread across the copper sky, and made coffee that smelled rich and familiar. He checked the fences. He rode to the watering holes to make sure they had not dried up. He watched the plains animals move in herds, their horns spiraling like growing trees. Sometimes a group of flying creatures would pass overhead like drifting sails. Redstep was full of life if one knew how to watch. Elias knew even so he was alone. He had not heard another human voice in almost 3 years. The silence did not feel like loneliness. It felt like deep breathing, like a rest his spirit had needed for a long time. He knew every hill, every canyon, every strange rock formation in a 100-mile circle. The land had become a part of him. One evening, he rode Clover far from the ranch to check an old water line. The sun hung low, painting the sky in shades of copper, orange, and gold. The wind was slow and warm, carrying the smell of dust and wild grass. Elias rode quietly, letting Clover's steps tap softly on the hard earth. He listened, as he always did, to the world. Then he noticed something strange. There was movement on a distant ridge, not the shape of plains animals, not the flutter of wings. It was the shape of riders, several of them. They were moving smoothly across the crest of the hill, keeping formation. Elias slowed Clover and watched with careful eyes. As they drew closer, he saw that they were not from the domed cities, and not like any travelers he had ever met. They wore braided leather clothing decorated with colored stones that seemed to glow in the sunset. Every rider sat tall and sure on their mounts, which were long-legged, fast, and clearly trained with great skill. At their head rode a tall man with deep, thoughtful eyes. His expression was calm and steady, as though he carried many years of wisdom. His hair was braided with strands of silver and red cloth. He carried no visible weapon except a long spear, carved with symbols that told stories Elias could not read. This man was Chief Sawata. Beside him rode 2 young women, each around the age where youth met adulthood. They were his daughters, Taya and Nahi. They held themselves straight and confident, like people who knew how to move with the land instead of against it. Their eyes were alert, watching everything around them, reading the wind, the ground, the distance, the way Elias himself did. When the group stopped in front of Elias, there was no tension. There was only quiet respect. Elias sat in his saddle, Clover breathing slow and even while the chief stepped forward. For a moment, no words needed to be spoken. The plain seemed to hold its breath. Chief Sawata greeted Elias with a small nod, not too low, not too high. A gesture of equals. Elias returned the nod. The chief spoke in a deep, calm voice. His words were clear, each one chosen with care. "We know this land," he said. "We ride it. We follow the seasons. We honor its living spirit. We have seen your home built with patience and respect. You understand the plains as few settlers do." Elias listened. He felt no fear, only curiosity. Sawata continued. "A danger has awakened, not of fire or storm, but of machines. Old machines left by a mining company that abandoned this planet long ago. They slept in the earth. Now they wake again. They take without asking. They tear the land as they work. They do not see the life here." Elias's eyes narrowed slightly. He remembered hearing about mining drones left behind decades ago. Most were said to be inactive, but machines sometimes restarted themselves, especially if power sources or memory loops reactivated. The chief spoke again, his voice low and steady. "We know we cannot face this alone. The machines spread like hunger. They move fast. They flatten everything. We fight for the land because the land has always cared for us. You live here as well, so we came to speak to you to ask you to stand with us, not as follower, as friend." There was a silence. Taya watched Elias with calm curiosity. Nahi studied Clover with quiet admiration. Elias felt the wind run across his face, carrying warm dust and the faint call of distant animals. He looked at the chief and then at the land around them. This place had given him peace. It had held him when the universe had felt too loud. It had been a home when he had needed one most. Now the land needed him. He did not speak many words. He was not a man of speeches. He simply nodded. The chief's expression did not change, but something warm and steady moved behind his eyes. A bond had been formed. The riders turned and began to guide Elias toward their camp. Taya rode near him, occasionally glancing his way, but only with quiet respect. Nahi rode slightly ahead, guiding the pace. Clover kept stride with their mounts easily. As they traveled, Elias observed how the daughters read the land. They noticed small tracks of animals, broken grass patterns, air pressure shifts, even distant sound vibrations. They were skilled in ways that felt familiar to Elias. They did not conquer the plains. They listened to it. When they reached the camp, the smell of wood smoke, herbs, and clean leather filled the air. Tents shaped like flowing wind stood in a circle, low to the ground to resist storms. People greeted Elias calmly with nods and open faces. There was no fear here, only warmth. Children ran across the grass playing with carved toys. Elders sat near fires, shaping tools or preparing food. Warriors checked their mounts, adjusting reins and saddle lines. Everything felt balanced, like a song sung softly to itself. Chief Sawata led Elias to a fire at the center of the camp. The flames flickered low and warm, casting gold light across everyone's faces. People gathered quietly, forming a circle. No one shouted. No one rushed. They simply waited to hear. The chief spoke again. "We stand at the edge of change. The machines have awakened. They move already. They cut paths across the North Valley. Tomorrow we will ride to see the damage. We will watch how they move, how they think, and then we will decide how to protect our home." Elias nodded. He felt the weight of what was coming, but he did not feel fear. He felt purpose. The world had been quiet for years, but the quiet had not been an ending. It had been a beginning. He had lived alone. Yes, but now the land had called him back into the story, and he answered. The next morning, the sky was a pale copper with streaks of gold. The wind moved slowly, carrying the scent of the plains and distant wildflowers. Elias woke before sunrise just as he always had and felt a quiet energy in the air. Today, the peace he had known for years would be tested. The machines were already on the move. He mounted Clover and followed Chief Sawata and the two daughters, Taya and Nahi, as they led a small group of riders north. Their mounts were fast and sure, moving over the rolling grasslands with the ease of people who had spent a lifetime reading the land. Elias noticed how every motion, every step was precise. These riders understood the plains in a way that felt almost like magic. Elias had his own skills. He had studied red steppe for years, mapping ridges, rivers, and hidden valleys. He knew where the ground was soft and where it was firm. He knew where a herd of creatures might be hiding. He had lived alone, yes, but that solitude had sharpened his senses. He had become part of the land, and today that knowledge would matter more than ever. As they rode, Taya pointed toward a valley in the distance. "There," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "They move like a river of metal. You can see the tracks from here." Elias squinted. At first, all he saw was a shimmer across the ground. But as they got closer, he could make out the shapes. Machines with legs, wheels, and sharp tools moving in patterns that suggested intelligence. They tore the earth as they went, leaving deep furrows in their path. Nahi adjusted her grip on the reins and nodded toward Elias. "This is where you come in. You know the land better than any of us. Show us where we can slow them, where we can trap them, where we can guide them." Elias felt a surge of focus. He had lived alone for years, but this was not solitude. This was partnership. He pointed toward a narrow canyon ahead. "We can use the terrain," he said. "The machines are fast, but they don't understand the curves and dips. If we lure them here, they'll get stuck in the softer soil. We can guide them into a trap, Chief Sawata nodded. Good. We will follow your plan, friend. Lead the way. The group split into smaller units. Elias, Taya, and Nahi took the lead, riding in a formation that kept the machines in sight but allowed them to adjust quickly. The other riders spread out to guard the flanks and prevent the machines from escaping. As they approached the canyon, Elias explained his idea. We need to redirect the small streams into the soft soil. When the machines step on it, they'll sink. Some of them will be stuck completely. Then we can block their path with fallen trees and rocks. We don't need to destroy them all. We just need to stop them from spreading. Taya and Nahi listened carefully, asking questions about distances, slopes, and water flow. Elias realized how well they worked together. They were quick to understand, quick to adapt, and quick to act. The first machines appeared at the edge of the canyon, their metal bodies glinting in the sun. They moved like a single organism, scanning the ground, calculating, searching. The riders held their positions, watching. Elias guided the water channels with precision, opening small dikes he had prepared earlier and letting streams flow into the soft soil. Slowly, deliberately, the machines entered the canyon. The ground beneath them gave way, and one by one they began to sink. Some wobbled, some froze, and some tilted dangerously. Taya signaled to the other riders. With careful timing, they pushed large stones and fallen logs into the path of the trapped machines, creating barriers that prevented them from advancing. Nahi rode ahead, drawing the attention of the remaining machines and guiding them into the trap with skillful maneuvers. The battle was not loud or chaotic. There were no explosions, no screaming. It was careful, deliberate, and smart. Every rider, every mount, every movement mattered. Elias marveled at how coordinated they were, how connected to the land, and how calm they remained under pressure. By midday, the machines were stopped. Many were trapped in the canyon. Some had been guided into shallow pits, and the rest had been blocked from moving further. The plains were safe, at least for now. The riders gathered on a nearby ridge, looking down at their work. Elias felt a deep sense of pride. He had helped save this land, not with brute force, but with knowledge, patience, and understanding. Chief Sawata clapped him on the shoulder. You are a true friend of the plains, he said. We could not have done this without you. Taya and Nahi smiled, proud but humble. You are one of us now, Taya said. Not by blood, but by trust and skill, Elias smiled back. He had lived alone for years, but he no longer felt that solitude. He felt part of something greater. The land had given him peace, and now it had given him purpose. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in deep shades of copper and gold, the riders returned to the camp. They moved slowly, enjoying the quiet after the tense morning. Children ran to greet them, and elders nodded in respect. There was laughter, soft and genuine, as the people celebrated the small victory. That night, Elias sat by the fire with Chief Sawata and the daughters. They shared stories of their pasts, of their ancestors who had traveled across worlds, of the lessons they had learned from the plains. Elias spoke of his years of solitude, of learning to listen to the wind, of reading the land like a living map. I thought I had everything I needed, he said quietly, but I see now that the land is part of a bigger story, and the people who respect it are part of that story too. Chief Sawata nodded. The plains teach patience, respect, and understanding. Those who listen will find strength. You have done more than listen, Elias, you have acted. Taya leaned close. We will face more challenges. The machines are not gone forever. They may return, or others like them may come. But now we know we can protect the land together. Nahi added, and you are part of that. We ride as a team. We plan as a team. And we protect as a team. Elias looked at the fire, the dancing flames reflecting in his eyes. He felt a warmth that was different from the sun or the fire. It was the warmth of belonging. He realized that living alone had taught him many things: patience, observation, resilience. But living together taught something more: trust, cooperation, and hope. Over the following days, Elias worked closely with the riders. He helped repair traps, reinforce barriers, and create systems to monitor the plains for returning machines. He learned new techniques from Taya and Nahi, learning how to ride faster, track better, and predict the behavior of the land and its creatures. The bond between them grew stronger with every ride. The girls taught him lessons not only of skill but of spirit, of listening to the land and understanding its moods. Chief Sawada shared wisdom about leadership and responsibility, about protecting not just yourself but the future. Elias found himself laughing more, talking more, and thinking less about the years he had spent alone. Weeks passed. The machines did not return, but the lessons remained. The riders patrolled the land, keeping the plane safe. Elias knew that his life had changed forever. The ranch he had built alone was still his, but it was no longer isolated. Visitors, friends, and allies came and went, sharing stories, skills, and companionship. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned a soft copper, Elias rode Clover along the ridge with Taya and Nahi. The wind whispered around them. The plain stretched endlessly, alive and beautiful. He realized that this land, once quiet and solitary, now felt vibrant with life, challenge, and connection. Chief Sawata rode up beside him and nodded. The land will always change. We will face new trials and we may stumble, but together we will endure. Together we will thrive. Elias looked at the horizon, feeling the truth of those words. He had lived alone for years, yes. He had built a home with his hands and listened to the wind. But now he understood that strength was greater when shared. Courage was deeper when joined. And the plains, the endless red-gold plains, had given him a family, a purpose, and a story worth living. The sun set, casting long shadows across the grass. The stars began to appear bright and close, as if the universe itself were watching. Elias breathed deeply, feeling the pulse of the land beneath him, the heartbeat of his companions beside him, and the promise of every new dawn. For the first time in years, he felt completely at home, not just on Red Step, but in the universe itself. And in that quiet golden light, he knew one thing with certainty. Wherever there was a frontier, wherever there was land to protect, wherever there was life to cherish, humans could rise to meet it, not alone but together with wisdom, courage, and heart. Elias smiled. The world was vast, the challenge was great, and the adventure had only just begun.